And gee, I think that's another big yellow birch. Look at that. You know, over the years how the branches have broken and then they just regrow and, you know, fight for the sunlight up there in the canopy. And then eventually they pass on. And it's really pretty up here. It's that sort of, you know, mystical sort of feeling. Really special. In July of 2016, I hiked up a southern portion of Sunapee Mountain in New Hampshire to fly fish Lake Solitude, a remote pond stocked by helicopter. To get a view of the lake, I climbed to a popular overlook called the White Cliffs. It was on this trail that I began to notice how the trees looked old, gnarled, and distorted. I mentioned in my video that it felt mystical. I had no idea what I was looking at, but until years later, I learned that I was on the precipice of an ancient and pristine virgin forest referred to as the East Bowl, an area of forest only recently rediscovered in 1997, and that in a 2003 survey documented trees such as red spruce, over 250 years old, and yellow birch, over 323 years old. I also noticed a small brook, Johnson Brook, emanating from the middle of this bowl-shaped forest. Might it support brook trout? I had to explore this. Hiking in an ancient forest and fishing for brook trout? So this past June, I set out to explore and film this area. And I think you're going to find it very, very interesting, because how often does one get to actually hike through a ancient, pristine virgin forest? It's pretty amazing. Well, I've made it. It's around 1 o'clock, and this is the Mt Sunapee State Park campground. And it's really not very busy at all. It's, you know, Friday, but I'm told that sometime tonight and this weekend it'll be absolutely packed. It's primarily, I think, up here it's for tents and stuff, and I would recommend that if you do come up this park road to get to here, that you might want to consider a four-wheel drive vehicle, especially if it starts to rain or something like that, because the road is steep and it's kind of like broken up between what used to be pavement and sand, and you know, it looks like they have to repair it every single time there's a heavy rainstorm. So well, that's good advice at any rate. So I'm going to start heading up what looks to be like this old well, it's sort of a ski it's for the ski mountain. It's kind of like a way in which they, you know, can service some of the stuff on the top of the mountain, because they have like restaurants and things like that up there for skiers. So I'll follow that road heading up. Here, let me show it to you. So I'm going to be heading up. This is the access road to the ski stuff, and as you can see, it's authorized vehicles only. So I'll have to be hiking from here, and hopefully I'll be picking up Johnson Brook as this winds down to that little lower area. But I think I'm looking at the East Bowl from here, and one of the things that they noticed was the height of the spruce trees. So this is a very unique, you know, old growth of a lot of claims and justification to even call it a virgin forest, as apparently it has never been logged. But it's also very unique in that it's a hardwood forest consisting of maples, yellow birches, beech trees. But then as you start to gain in altitude, it changes over to more of like a spruce tree forest. So it's very unique in that sense that it's a virgin forest, but it contains both of those two elements as you increase. So I'm going to be looking for you know, wild brook trout on this little Johnson Brook, and at the same time, the exciting part is I'll be following this brook as it goes up through this bowl, the East Bowl of Mt Sunapee. Okay, so this is the rim trail. It's the first trail that I'm encountering, and it's right on the edge of the border of, you know, this virgin forest and the Mt Sunapee ski area. And I guess it follows a ridge that climbs up the side of the East Bowl, and it could be really interesting. But I'm going to try to. It is. Oh, by the way, there is a crossing of the little stream here too, so I want to check that out. The plan is I'm going to try to follow the stream up as far as I can go, and it still looks, you know, like it's fishable, and then fish it sort of going down. All right, as opposed to, you know, spending a lot of time fishing down here and then never making it back up into the middle of this virgin forest. So we're going to try to do both those things. So I'll do the climbing and hiking first, and that'll be to continue up this road that the ski area uses. And as you can see, there's one of the lifts. By the way, it's also it was a little while ago, it was around 1 o'clock. It's probably 1:30 now. It's June 13th on a Friday. I just noticed that it's Friday the 13th. So let's hope nothing bad happens. But here, let me I'm just going to go down this a little bit, and I just want to check out to see what the stream looks like. Okay, so we've had a lot of rain recently, and I was sort of hoping that this stream would be a little bigger than it actually is. I did notice that in the Google Maps stuff, that if I follow this down just a little ways, and I don't know if you can see the kind of like the sun opening up out there, it gets into a little more of like a marshy pond sort of like area. So there may be a good chance for brook trout there coming up from Lake Sunapee. But I don't know how much further they go up the trail here, and there could be some good pools depending on, you know, it's going to start getting steep as we go into this bowl. So there could be some potential up there as well for small brook trout. And we'll definitely keep an eye out for that. But we'll try the fishing. First, I want to just go up and check out the virgin forest with you. And let's take a look at that. And as you can sort of see, I'm already starting to see some really big trees here. Really tall. Looks like they're probably red maples. Striped maples I'm seeing some birch trees, white birch. And there's going to be yellow birch up here too. In fact, one of the oldest trees in this area was, they did a core processing on it, and it was a yellow birch, and I think it's right now probably around 365 years old. And some of the spruce up here are in excess of 240 years old that they tested. So we'll look for other signs of if this is a virgin forest, depending on, you know, will you see places where trees were actually cut down, even though the moss may be now growing over the stump, or did the tree fall down and, you know, from the roots and everything that were exposed, they've now kind of worn down over the years, and moss is sort of covering that. So there's a lot of different ways in which to tell how old this forest is, not only by the size of the tree, but also, like in many cases, what you might see in the bark. As trees get older, their bark tends to change. So we'll go into all of that, but let's get back to the hike, and we're going to go up this stream and see where things, to see if there's any good pools up there. Well, look at this. These are the ski slopes, and this is the access to the top of the mountain. That's, you know, only for really the ski folks, the employees, but mountain employees. But one thing that you should really, I wish to point out, is that this is June 13th. Had this been more like July 13th or 16th, you do not want to go hiking up any of these ski trails, because what you're going to find is some of them have like a lot of blueberry bushes, and the blueberries are pretty ripe around here in mid-July. And needless to say, you'll see, you know, Mama Black Bear will be out here with her cubs, right? So, you know, you would see it, you know, you could stand here and you'd see it very easily, even from a distance, because they're so dark. You know, they stand out. But I'd much rather prefer following this road even now than going up the ski trails, only because, you know, who knows, I guess the raspberries are probably ripe around that time as well. Anyway, that's my safety notice for the film. It's a little overcast, so I'm not sure you can see the mountains like I can from here, but I stopped because not only is that an old birch, and you can sort of see how, like, the ice storms and stuff over the years, all the trees around here have this look. I didn't really stop necessarily for this one, although it's a beautiful tree. But I wanted to show you, I was checking out the little pools and everything, and then I noticed down in the woods, and that tree there, it starts way down on the bottom. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but then it starts to really climb out, because That's a big tree, and it starts way down below. Well, I think I may have found the original trail. So I continued up to this road to where the stream crosses it, and actually there was a couple of places where the stream crosses it, and each place doesn't really look all that fishable. But this may be the original Solitude trail that goes right up straight through up into the virgin part of this East Bowl. So I'm gonna follow this trail because it's the first trail that I've seen off this road. But as you can see, it looks like it's been used. So let's give it a shot. Well, as you can see, there are some little pools here, and there could be little tiny brook trout in them. So we'll have to check it out. But for now, I'm going to continue to go up this trail and check out this virgin forest. One of the things that you'll notice about these old, mature, and ancient forests is that the trees will be all different ages. So you'll have some big trees out there, and I can see some in the distance, some huge trees. But you'll also have younger ones. And really that's the sign that this is not a place that has been logged previously, because then the trees would all be sort of like the same age. Whereas here, when a big tree finally falls down and lets the sunlight in, a lot of these smaller trees that have been waiting their chance, they then start to grow and take advantage of that light. So you have this constant mix of big old trees as well as young ones. And as I get further up this trail, we're gonna, I think, see some really beautiful trees. And I'm already starting to see glimpses of them as we get into this East Bowl. You're gonna notice how a lot of these trees don't have limbs in the lower sections. It's another big birch. Oh, and here's, what a shame. There's a beech tree, and as you can see, it has that beech bark disease. I've been noticing that there hasn't been a lot of the leaf disease yet here, but unfortunately I'm seeing the beech bark disease as well. That's a shame. Okay, so I just noticed there actually are some trail markers. So this isn't like some mysterious old trail that's like, since gone away. So that's a good sign. So if you do want to come up here and climb this section and see this virgin forest, there is a trail that brings you right up through the middle of it. And you're going to see some really gorgeous old trees all around. And for a minute there, I thought my stream had completely died. But this is actually just a little tributary. Although the main stem is not much larger, but it's over there. So I'm going to continue to proceed and head on up. If you've done a lot of hiking in the White Mountains, New Hampshire, and I've done my share over the years, I'm going to tell you right now, you just don't see trees this big. I mean, I don't have any kind of measuring device with me, but this thing's got to be like, I don't know, 160, maybe 170 inches in circumference. And it's not necessarily the tallest tree, but it's been here a long time. And I'm trying to figure out what it is. It's not the maple tree. It's got more of a beech tree type leaf to it, or leaves. But it could be a birch. I'm suspecting maybe it's another one of these black birches. But it's just a really old one. And then you've got another type of birch over there. These are all big, beautiful trees. Sun's starting to come out, which is nice. I gotta check out one of these a little closer. But we're starting to also see some giant, just giant spruce trees up here too. See, it's kind of like a little bit, the little trees here, they're like fir trees. I think back home we call them Christmas trees, right? And then another big monster of a birch. Starting to see some really large maple trees too. I've got a large maple over there, another one over there. But yeah, starting to see some big, as you can see in the distance over there, but it's a big, gigantic spruce trees, just straight.
Keep in mind, these trees are larger than my wide-angle camera makes them appear.
I was going to say that this is an ash tree, because if you look on the other side of it, it kind of has that diamond pattern. But is it, as the tree gets older, does it start to shed the diamond pattern? You can go around here. You know, see how the pattern's a little different over on this side. So that's kind of one of the ways you can tell the age. And if it is an ash tree, I mean, it's a giant. Ash trees were giants. And this one, I guess the beetles haven't made their way up here yet, but let's hope they don't. But somebody's definitely checking it out, right?
I should also point out that walking on this trail feels normal, but when I step off it, my feet sink a couple of inches into what is called a duff layer, which is another sign of a mature old-growth forest.
It's just so peaceful here. You know, you're in this very old forest. It's quiet. And you've got some trees that are dead, some that have fallen down. I happen to notice that I'm in the light, so as you can see, it's probably because this guy fell down recently. As you can see, here's an old birch tree starting to rot away. They probably rot away kind of quickly, as opposed to the beech trees. But it seems like every corner you turn, there's another one of these magnificent looking older trees. Literally every corner. You know, and then you can see in the distance. I don't think the camera does this justice. But look at, over the years, you know, the ice storms that come through, and they break off parts of the tree, and then the trees just regrow themselves. That's a pretty good example. Well, I came up here to check out this little stream, but I think I left the stream and just continued to head further and further up. I'm not going to bother try to get to the top. I've been there before, but what I'm probably going to do now is I'm probably going to start to head down and then see, you know, what potential the little tiny stream Johnson Brook has. And by the way, Johnson Brook, that was named after the original owner of this property, or one of the original owners of this property that maintained this forest and it didn't sell out to the loggers. Although logging in this area was extremely popular. There were a lot of big companies. And another reason, you know, for why this area probably got left too, is that the trees may not have been as large here because they call it the East Bowl, but the fact is that it's facing sort of the northeast, and so maybe the trees weren't as big, and the steepness of it, because there's some sections in here that are really, really steep, you know, wasn't worth it, and he probably wanted too much money for what they were willing to pay. However, it worked out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to head down, and we'll start to explore some of these areas. I mean, I could spend all day just starting to like walk off every time I see another big tree over there, and there's some really big ones over there. But and then I think I'm starting to see more spruce trees as I got further up too, so that's kind of neat as well. Anyway, check in later. It is a really old looking yellow birch. right out there. I admit I had to climb a little further up. Oh, and here's a spruce tree. Starting to see some of those. Can't even see the top of it. And as you can see over here, well, right there too, you know, the trees, they die, they fall down, you know, the carbon gets added back into the ground. And gee, I think that's another big yellow birch. Look at that. You know, over the years how the branches have broken and then they just regrow and, you know, fight for the sunlight up there in the canopy. And then eventually they pass on. And it's really pretty up here. It's that sort of, you know, mystical sort of feeling, really special. One of the other things too that makes this East Bowl unique is that apparently because it's in a bowl and it's facing the northeast, a lot of the hurricanes and things that come up the coast and, you know, go through New England, especially the one in like 1938, which was really devastating, really spared the trees here. And because the trees didn't all fall down and break, and there was all this moisture, that when the fires came after the 1938 hurricane, the fires that were bad on the other side of the mountain didn't touch and reach this side. So it's kind of unique in that it's been even protected from the natural causes for why some of these, you know, big old trees might have fallen down and broken even worse. So really what you're just looking at probably is more ice damage. There's a really big spruce tree over there. And I keep on going up further and further to see if I can find a view that shows you the spruce tree, but unfortunately the canopy covers the you know, the spruce tree's like halfway up. But I'll just go do a little try and then, okay, I'll eventually turn around. Okay, so you get a nice view of the spruce tree, but once again, you really can't see the top of it as it gets way up there. But beautiful hardwoods. Oh, I think I found my stream. I thought I had lost it. I thought it had kind of dried up. Apparently there's not a lot of really good seepage coming off of this East Bowl. So this is it. You know, it just dawned on me. Usually when you're hiking up here, the goal is to get to the top of the mountain, and you're going to see that in a lot of videos, because of course then you get those great views. But I have never hiked in a forest up here in New Hampshire that's anything like this. I've never hiked in a forest like this. Everywhere I look, it seems like there's a bigger tree, and off in the distance, you know, some real monsters. You know, it's some regular size, smaller ones. But yeah, I've never hiked in a forest like this.
And you may have noticed there's no white pine trees. We'll talk about that in a little bit later.
It's hard to stop. You know, not every tree's a monster, but every once in a while you come across a few that are really big. And then of course you have a lot of them that are smaller. And you want to keep on like going over and checking out the really big ones, but I'd save that for another day. This is interesting. So a striped maple, which normally has almost like a lizard feeling sort of skin, the big broad maple type leaves, but as it gets older, this is how it appears. And there's got other names for it too, like moose something or other, because the deer and things like to nibble on it. But I think that's really only when it's in its sort of young age. And you know, you can't see the stripes too well on this one because maybe it's doesn't get as much sun. They do love the sun, so it's not surprising to see it actually here right on the trail. But that's what it looks like as it gets older. That's the first time I've seen that.
It was nice to be serenaded by the birds as I headed back down the trail to now start to check out the lower sections of Johnson Brook.
There was this neat little waterfall cascading down the mountain here. Unfortunately, it looks like some kind of orange ski thing has wedged itself into the rocks there. Well, not a ski pole, but something they probably use on the ski mountain. And there were some nice little pools, but I thought I might as well continue down the mountain and try some of the areas that might have a little better potential for brook trout. As I imagine, a lot of this gets pretty dry in the heat of the summer, but still, it's real pretty. You know, I just noticed something. This is the first white pines that I've seen all day hiking up into this ancient forest. And it isn't until I get down here into this, the ski area, sort of like a staging area, right, just below one of the ski lifts, that you finally start to see some white pines. And from what I understand, white pines are like some of the first trees to, to start to populate open fields and things like this. They really like the sun and whatnot, but that they aren't the tree that you'll find in the very, very old mature forests. Because once those other hardwoods and stuff start to take over and the white pines get old and they start to die, you don't have the sunlight that they love, as small plants. So I just think that's kind of interesting that I didn't see any white pines the whole time I was hiking up through that area. And only now, when I get down here into areas that have obviously been cleared, am I starting to see some of the first white pines. That's a sign. Well, this looks like an ash tree, and unfortunately beavers like it as much as those beetles do, so that's just too bad. I see another one over there. And the brook is now entering into like a beaver pond. I saw my first insect life. So I'm sort of scouting it out to see if I see any movement whatsoever in this. As the, you know, the final like last little bit of white water was like right there. So it's just really now starting to come into this pond. So there could be some potential here. Well, I'm kind of hoping that this isn't the end of my trip. Wasn't really expecting this though. I'm just looking around and I'm not seeing any sign of any kind of fish life. Sometimes as you walk near a place that's this shallow, you'll scare them up a little bit. Not seeing any of that. I think there's the beaver dam is much further down that way, but that would mean my having to find a path and cross that steeper area and walk all the way down that way just to find out that it's not worth it. Oh, I don't see another way around either. It's a big area. It's too bad. I was kind of hoping it would be a couple of. It's like it was a marsh, kind of like, you know, had like a marshy grass and a stream sort of cutting through it. And I was kind of hoping that that's what I was going to find, right, where the water might be deeper in the channel and might be holding fish. But this is I have no idea where the channels are now. So this would be real hit and miss, and I think more miss than hit. Not to mention all these recent trees that have been all cut down. You can see they're everywhere. Mr. Beavers are going crazy. I mean, is that a sign of it's going to be a cold winter? I don't know. Anyway, I mean, I might scout around, but ugh.
This is the imagery I found on Google Maps for Johnson Brook, which I thought might have good potential for fly fishing. Walking in this marshy area, plenty of room to cast, some interesting bend pools. But it turns out this imagery is from 2019. This is what I encountered, which oddly is imagery that was captured on June 2nd, 2025, 11 days before I got here or arrived, but had not been uploaded to Google Maps. Had I seen this imagery, I would have planned to circumvent the first couple of beaver dams and would have checked out the water running below and above the dams. But from my vantage point, it looked hopeless. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if so, please click on like and subscribe. Also turn on notifications, as I have another 5 or 6 videos to edit and publish of fly fishing streams in the White Mountains with plenty of challenging and healthy wild brook trout.